Hello and welcome back. This is Dawn. For today's projects, we have a fun, easy technique that uses very minimal supplies. Now, these birch trees are so elegant and so fun, so let's get right into it and I'll show you how it's done. I'm going to be using pumice stone, ground espresso, and black soot distress oxides for my first card. Now, this is a technique that is used in a lot of fine art, whether it's acrylic, oil painting, and recently I even discovered that you can do it with watercolor. What you'll need is a straight edge. Here I'm using an expired gift card. You could use a gift card, an expired credit card, a palette knife, even a stiff piece of cardboard. Anything with a straight edge will work. So what I'm going to do is take my credit card here and just swipe it across the top of my ink pad. Then I'm going to transfer that ink by dragging it quickly across my paper. So let's take a look at the technique here. I've loaded it up. I'm going to position for the left side of my tree trunk here, put my card down, and then just quickly swipe and lift. Now you don't want to drag a large distance. The further across you drag, the wider your tree trunk is going to be. We're doing birch trees, which are usually very tall and straight and narrow. So you'll touch the card and then pull quickly across as you lift. And you'll notice that it's depositing and dragging that ink across the paper as you go. This is very addictive, very fun, and it's a lot of fun to try with different colors that you maybe wouldn't think of. My second card, I will show you another color palette that was just as fun. Now right here, what we're doing is I am only mapping out the left side of the tree. So I'm leaving a gap between each tree, and in my head, I'm visualizing where the right side of that tree trunk is going to go. Now, periodically, you want to wipe off any excess ink that's built up on your card, as well as your hands. We're working with oxide here, and the ink is thick, and it takes a minute to dry, so make sure that you're wiping your hands between as well so you don't transfer. Although, with the technique that I did, and you'll see here in a minute, it's not going to be very apparent if you do. So here we're putting in the right side of the trunk. I've picked up the ground espresso, and I am going over maybe about a half an inch or so, laying the card down, swiping, and lifting. That's going to create the right side of the tree. I'm not overly concerned right now if I get a perfectly straight line or if it's perfectly lined up. Don't worry about that. Again, the way that I'm going to show you to do this is more of an abstract look. So I am going to purposely put imperfections in here as we go, and I really think that it adds to the charm of this card. Now I'm taking the corner of my card and I'm just lightly grazing it across the top of that pad, and I'm adding some extra marks across each tree trunk. So you can see here I'm just using the corner and then dragging it across the inside of the tree trunk. This is going to create little marks inside the tree. You can also play around with what part of the card you use. So in some areas, I just want a nice straight thin line. So I'm going to use the edge of the card. I'm just going to tap it onto the pad and then just tap it onto my tree. And if I only want a little section, like say, a quarter of an inch or something, I'm only going to put the corner of my card in there. You can see I've let most of the card hang off the edge of the pad, and I'm only inking up that one little side. And then I'm doing some quick taps, and I'm purposely allowing it to go outside of the trees. Again, I'm going for that playful, little on the abstract side, but still definitely you can tell that they are birch trees. We're going to add one more color in here because just for some contrast and some fun. And for that, I'm going to use the black soot. I'm going to use this one the most sparingly, but it's just going to add a little bit of depth and contrast to the trees. You could stop here, completely optional, but we're going to add some black soot. So again, I'm lightly pulling that card over the ink pad. I can't stress this enough. You don't want to put too much ink on your card, and you also don't want to ruin your pad. So very lightly swipe it across. And now I'm doing the same thing with the black, and I'm going to do this on both sides of the trunk. In some parts, I'm not even going to drag the card. I'm just going to straight up and down, just tap that straight edge along the edge of the tree. And again, if it's not perfectly in line with the edge of the tree, I'm not stressed about it. Here I decided to add another tree behind that was kind of coming out at an angle. So you can see how I'm just working that in behind the trees that I've already done. Very easy to do. Now, if you want to know the truth, the reason I started going abstract with this, or a little more messy, is because I didn't wipe my hands off between often enough, and I did get some ink transfer, and I decided, you know what, I kind of like it. I kind of like it with a little bit of outside of the lines, if you will. And that's when I just started adding all of the extra stuff. And I actually, sometimes, you know, those boo-boos are serendipitous, and I liked it. Okay, for this one, I wanted to up the bling factor a little, so I grabbed some gold texture paste. Now this is Heidi Swap's gold texture paste. It's super old, and I couldn't find it online anymore, but any of your gold texture pastes that are on the market, I think Gina K has some paste that's gold like this. I know Vicky Booten has some. A lot of people have the gold pastes now, the texture pastes, and I'm going to use it the same way. Again, this one I'm going to use the most sparingly. Just drag that card through the paint and then pick an area and drag it across your tree. This is just going to add a little bit of metallic shine to these trees. And like I mentioned before, this is a trick that a lot of fine artists use for adding things, mountaintops, roof textures on old cabins and things like that. You'll see it with a palette knife a lot. If you ever watched Bob Ross, he would do it a lot in his oil paintings with his palette knife. So here's something that we can adapt from fine art into our crafting with the supplies that we have. You could do this with regular ink as well, dye inks, not the pigments or the oxides. I just found it easier to work with the oxide in this case. And here we have the gold accents on this card. Do you see the way the light catches it? It is so pretty. And because it is texture paste, it's raised in certain areas. So it's just beautiful. Okay, so for the next one, we're going to use weathered wood, ground espresso, and black soot distress oxides. This is going to be our more moody set of birch trees. I'm going to do everything the exact same way. So I'm going to leave this in pretty fast motion. I just wanted you to be able to see it once again. This one I do add a little branch coming off of the main trunk, and you'll be able to see how I work that in as well. I love the combo of blue and brown. It's one of my favorite color combos. Blue can be a very cool color, and then browns are always warm and earthy. And I'm a huge fan of mixing warm and cool colors. Most of you know that. So to me, it just felt right to use this brown and blue combo. You could stop at any point. You don't have to fill yours as much as I did. You don't have to add the random stray marks. I think that all of the ways look beautiful. It's really, really hard to mess this up. And then once this is all done, we are going to add our sentiment. You can see down there at the bottom, I actually had a water spot down there at the bottom right. And I love the way that kind of made it look like a knot in the tree. Again, just those happy accidents, right? Okay, so both of our cards are done, and we're going to take a look at these. Now, I do have a third version over on the blog. I will have photos of a third version, so if you want to see that, make sure you head over there. The link will be down below. But here you can see, here's our warm one with that gold accents, and then here is our cooler one, but because we've added that brown, it's not too icy. It's just right in my opinion. All right, for the sentiment, we're going to use W+9's Joyful Poinsettia. I love the sentiments in this set, and they are perfectly scaled to use on your slimline cards. We're going to use the Joy to the World. And for the gold accent card, we're going to use some gold embossing powder. We're going to keep it super fancy. We're using our Rabbit Hole Designs embossing powder tool here. We're going to ink that up in Versamark, add our gold embossing powder, and then we will use our heat tool to melt that. Now this is going to complement that gold texture paste beautifully. Both cards were giving me a very minimal modern feel, so I went ahead and ran with that, and I'm going to finish them off very similarly. I'm matting my sentiment panel here with a little bit of dove gray. I'm just leaving the slightest little border, maybe a 1/16 of an inch, if that. And then I'm going to matte the panel as well on that light gray. Now this is our dove gray, which is retired, but any light gray would work. In fact, I think that a craft would look beautiful with this color combo. It would give it more of a woodland vibe, and it would look beautiful with the gold as well. Don't be afraid to try different colors. So I'm going to adhere that panel to a slimline card base using some fun foam. And then for the sentiment, I'm going to use some foam circles here. I almost said foam squirrels. I almost said foam squares, but these are circles. Yeah, everything that I've used in today's video will be listed in the description box below, as well as on our blog. Speaking of the blog, there will be another card sample over there for you guys to see in another color combo, so make sure you check it out. All right, so those are the 2 finished cards. First up, we have our very light, our grays and browns and that pop of gold. I love how this one turned out. Both of the cards were finished with Honeybee Stamps Grit and Grunge gems. They were perfect for these cards. And then here on the second card with the blue, I chose to matte that with Concord & Ninth's Midnight Cardstock. I love this technique. I hope you give it a try. It's super easy. Make sure you let me know if you do in the comments below. And I want to thank you guys for joining. As always, I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.